Welcome back to part 3. So this is going to bring us to an end now and get this model over the finish line. So starting here with the tracks, you can see now with a close-up how the rubber around the wheels using the wheel mask that we used in the earlier video, and how the tracks are set on there, just how nice it all looks, and it's nice and clean, ready for the weathering. So this has all had a matte coat as we discussed in the previous video. And now we're going to start using some oil washes using the raw umber. Just trying to pick out some of the raised detail here. So going into the recesses on the idlers, the raised bolt detail around the sprocket and the raised bolt detail around the wheel hubs. We've also got some recesses in there as well, which it will pick up. So this is just some heavily thinned raw umber paint, just to kind of give us a dark base really, to build up from there. It's kind of getting the depths and shadows and doing all of that work for us. So just put it on liberally, and as we saw in the previous part, it's easy enough to get it off if it's in areas that you don't want, so no need to worry about that. Just trying to add some depths to some of these parts. This always makes it look a lot more realistic than just you leaving it stark and in the actual paint finish. And here you can see where it's pooling up, and I'm just trying to rub that around now. So this is, again, if we're using terminology, this would be now using this to apply a filter at the back there, just to kind of pull it all in and blend it together. But that's not really the intention. It's, instead of wicking it off, it's just spreading it around there and starting up a little bit of the patina and the muck that's going to build up on that area of an armoured fighting vehicle, certainly like a German tank. And now just running that wash around where it's pooling up a little bit, just getting that around and making sure it's everywhere we need it to be along those road wheels. And then we can wick that extra off once it's settled. Just using a cotton bud or dry brush. That's the best way to go around that. So once it's all worked in, you can leave it and it will pool up and you'll get a residue there, but it's better just to take off some of that extra, certainly on that second road wheel. Dabbing that there with a cotton bud would be very effective. It would just pull all that out and leave what's needed. And there you can see, just using the brush as described, this isn't even very much of a dry brush and it's still picking quite a lot of it up. It's a very nice effect, and oils are brilliant for this. You can do this all day long. You can add a bit, take a bit away, add a bit more, wipe a bit more off until you're happy with it. You never have to worry too much, and then when you let them dry, they will stay where they need to be. And the next bit of weathering, just adding some oil washes to the machine gun shield, which is going to be placed up on the superstructure. And that just doesn't want to be forgotten, but we've got underneath that. So if you'd glued that in, we've got to that area underneath that on the tank. So it's better to add that now at this stage. It just clips in there quite nicely, and a dab of glue on those hinges, and all is good. So we've got that bit on. Now I just wanted to paint in there this sort of canvas cover at the back of that gun mantlet. So I've done that just using a brown paint from the Tamiya range. And then just showing here where we've used the burnt sienna, as we did in the Panzer II video, just going on there neatly over the dark yellow base. So we just go straight over without thinning the oils with burnt sienna and just rub it over to give that wood grain effect on the handle. Very effective. And just here using some pastels now for the next part of the weathering process. So these are the cheap Hobbycraft pastels. We've got monochrome ones, which is what this set is. And then we've also got a coloured set as well. Both are very useful. The monochrome's probably better for more of a German grey, or if you're working around sort of gun areas, machine guns, that sort of thing. It's useful to be used there. For what we want to do, this multicoloured set is pretty much what we're after, and we're going to be using some of the yellow ochre colours. So starting off, we get the shade that you want. This is like the yellow ochre one, and just grinding a bit of that pastel off now onto some kitchen paper, and we can then mix that up with a whole load of different colours. So there's another brown, there's like a dark brown, which is quite useful. You can see the ones I use the most because they've been cut the most. And then there's a charcoal colour, which just adds a bit more depth to it as well. And if you keep them in their sections like I am here, adding the white now as well, you can sort of blend the mix a bit better. You can control it, so one bit will be a bit darker, one bit will be a bit lighter, and you can use it like that. Again, a bit like the pastel, the oils. you can treat these. So as you can see, I'm not mixing the whole lot. I'm leaving areas, some are a little bit more yellow, some are a little bit more brown, some are a little bit more black, and you can pull from that as a palette and use that to your advantage. So now we're just applying them to the model. So getting in around the nooks and crannies in the back there, which is quite useful. And this gives a kind of, what am I thinking here? Like a European dust, I guess we're going for. We're thinking about being in Western Europe, part of that campaign, around 44, 45, something like that. So dusty roads, dry mud, that sort of thing, as opposed to wet muds like you'd find in Russia, that sort of thing. And you can always change it accordingly. So I'll just leave you now with us, with me adding this now to the model, and you can see the effect it gives. And once you've got all of the hull and the lower superstructure all coated in the right amount of dust, I've gone now for reddish brown pigment here, and just applying that to the muffler there to give again just a dusty feel to everything, which you're going to get in these sort of vehicles. And then also adding some black pigment in and around the exhaust outlet there to give a kind of sooted kind of feel. Like sooted up where it's been coming out, and where you got that extra, just blowing that away and then blending what's left in. This is why these pastels are really quite good. And now you saw earlier us putting the Schwarzen on and showing how much it hides most of the lower hull. So we want to then have that affected also with the pigments that we're using here. I'm calling them pigments, it is pastels, but it's my way around pigments at the minute. So again, just placing them there, simple stuff, just kind of blending it up to get the right idea and keep all sort of in keeping with the rest of the weathering. And then when we apply it to the model, this is always a good test that if it blends in and looks like the rest of it, then we're somewhere near it. So you saw us putting the dust on the tracks, so now we're going to try and pick up some of the silver parts, some of the bits that have been burnished metal, showing some bare metal. And for that, we're just going to use a normal pencil. So this is an HB pencil, and I'm scraping some of that pencil lead off onto kitchen roll. And then from there, we're going to pick that up with a brush and just add it to some of the bits of the track that's going to get wear, and including the sprocket teeth as well, because they're also going to get worn. I'm just going in there and rubbing it on quite heavy, and the more you kind of catch, you'll start to see it'll catch the edges, and it's almost like a dry brushing technique. If you think of it like that, it will catch it in the same way. And in some of the awkward areas, you can even go in with a pencil and just drag that down as well, just trying to catch some of the raised detail. So where that was a bit awkward, I've actually used the pencil where I've got a bit more pressure, but on the front edge you can actually just use the graphite, which is what we're getting out of the pencil from the dust. Then on the actual tracks, just gone back to using the actual pencil now, just trying to catch those high parts to the track runs there. To the tread, there's like a sort of chevron raised part there. I'm not sure if it's ice cleats or not. There's many different Panzer IV tracks, so they've all got kind of varying differences to them. And this here is the final part of the weathering. So this does complete the model really. Once we've gone through this stage, you can see we've got a basic weathering. It looks pretty good all over, and it's starting to give the idea and move us towards a bit more of an advanced technique. There's many more things we could add to this, but for starters, this being the second model in the series, I think it's best to keep things simple. And I think, to be honest, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get to this level if this is even your second model. There's nothing being done here which is massively asking a lot, really. It's all basic techniques and pretty simple stuff using basic tools, and you can get quite a good high level finish. I think this is pretty good personally. I don't think there's much to be worried about on this finish. I think it looks the part to me. So thanks for staying tuned, and I hope you've enjoyed this, which is the 3-part series already on the Stug IV here. There's many more to come, so we'll be starting on next week. We're going to have the first part of the Churchill from the Tamiya range. So we're going to be tackling that one, moving away from the German side for a little bit to try and give a bit of variation to the series. I want to try and cover everything, so it's not just all German tanks. It's very easy to just build German tanks because there's a lot of interesting subjects. So if some of you are building along with this series, which is great, and I wasn't expecting that so much. So if you are, that's why I'm letting you know what the next video is. It is the Tamiya Churchill from their 135th range. Older kit, but it's been updated. I think it was a kind of 2005 release, something like that. It comes with a few figures and a few little extras, so stay tuned to the channel if you want to see that one. We'll be kicking off with that in the next video. As always, thanks for staying tuned. If you like what you see, please consider giving the video a like, subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support the channel, there's a few links below to a Patreon campaign, and there's also a PayPal link if you want to support us in that way. All of these videos are being compiled as part of a playlist, so do save the playlist so you get updates. Thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.